How you perking? I hope you're perking good. So, got kind of a big type of video here today. I've had a lot of questions on things that are future oriented, a lot of questions about AI or about, are we going to have World War III type of a scenario? Questions about, like, are things going to get better or are we kind of like in end times and all this kind of stuff. Like, people have questions, people have concerns. It's valid. I get it. We're in the same boat here trying to go through the world and how it's become these days. So, today is where we look into tackling all of that from a broader sense. I figure if we need to make individual videos about all these things that people have concerns about, we can, or we can kind of just get an overall about the next 50 years, which you can't even see that. You can't see that. Whatever. I have it on my handy dandy sticky note here about the next 50 years. And so the things that we're going to be looking at here are basically what will be happening over the next 50 years. What will define this next era of civilization that we've been kind of going in, and what major lessons will humanity learn? What are we meant to learn? What do we need to get out of this? What are we going to get out of this? Is there anything that we can kind of figure out before we have to learn it the hard way? Any of that stuff we're taking a look into today. And apparently Izzy's back there on a pillow trying to join in for the day. So here to kind of anchor us in some sort of lightness, levity, peace, and cuteness, we have my only little girl Chihuahua right here. So hopefully this will make an otherwise kind of nerve-wracking type of reading be potentially grounded in something, fun, cute, like, hey, look, everything can't always be negative and bad. There's gonna be little bright spots here and there, even if the bright spot is called Izzy and she's sitting on a couch in the middle of the video just trying to kind of hold space with us. So let me go ahead and get situated over here. I am a licensed mental health clinician as well as a spiritual intuitive, and in these videos we take a look at the tea with the tarot. Don't let that freak you out. Got a good track record here on the channel, and I'm going to go ahead and bring up those cards over there and move this microphone right here. So with this, I had in mind that I would be thinking about the entire world as we're looking at the next 50 years, because so much of what's going on is not just United States stuff. I know I'm sitting here in the States. I know a lot of you watching are also here in the States, but not everything revolves around us, has to do with us, starts with us, or ends with us. There's a lot of contextual stuff going on in all kind of places all over the planet that we're going to want to know about too. So if this ends up being something where we feel like we need a U.S. specific one as well, then y'all let me know and we might, do this again for the United States specifically. But right now, this is kind of open-ended because I don't want to filter out any potential context that we might be getting from our spirit guides and light teams. Okay, whatever they want us to know, I don't want to put us in a box where we don't get the kind of breadth of information that they're willing to give. You know what I mean? I'm not going to tie my hands around my back. I'm open here. I want to know. So let's go ahead and get shuffled up here. And of course, this is all alleged, just my interpretation. Gotta say that here. As always, for the YouTube overlords, gotta say that. All alleged, just my interpretation. And let's start with the first question, which basically is, what will happen over the next 50 years? This is a loaded question. And remember, as we're asking these loaded questions, we have an Izzy butt So, what will happen over the next 50 years here associated with planet Earth? Well, that's a lovely, lovely way to start this. No worries, y'all. We're getting more context. Don't freak out right away. Okay. So, let's go ahead and dive into the elephant in the room. The very first card that jumped out here was the Death card, DEATH card. Not a great first card to see when we're asking a loaded question like what's going to happen in the next 50 years. However, remember, if we're talking about the next 50 years, seeing the DEATH card is not that surprising considering there's a lot of that and rebirth that's going to be happening over the next 50 years. Every single year, a lot of people pass on and a lot of people are born new into the world. That is a fact of life, and there's going to be a lot of that going and coming in 50 years' time. So I got to put that out there first and foremost as let's think clearly here. That's low-hanging fruit, that there's going to be a lot of going and coming from this earth over the next 50 years. So it makes sense to see this card. Also, another way that it makes sense to see this card is that symbolically through the tarot, y'all know if y'all have been here for a while, the Death card symbolizes change and transformation. And if we're thinking back the last 50 years that we've gone through here on the planet, there's been a lot to happen. What's the last 50 years? I don't know, what are we? We're in 2025 now, so what, 1975? Is that 50 years ago? I can't math. So, but somewhere around there, like 70s and 80s and stuff to now, there's been a whole hell of a lot of change. So change and transformation over the next 50 years, again, unsurprising. So just wanting to demystify this card. I know it came out as the first card here and people have, anxiety and their nerves are kind of bing, bang, boom all over the place right now. I get it. Just gonna face that elephant in the room. There's going to be a lot of change over the next 50 years. That makes sense. There's going to be a lot of death and rebirth over the next 50 years. That makes sense. Okay? So I'm going to read the rest of this. And if we need any further context on this, of anything else that could, expedite that for some of us, like a war or like how the pandemic did or things like that, then I'm sure that will come up if we're allowed to know about it. So right now, well, the rest of the cards we see here, 7 of Wands in reverse, Page of Cups in reverse, that kind of follows this. So a lot of the change and transformation that's going to be happening over the next 50 years, just being honest, emotionally is not always going to feel so good to us. And then in terms of this card, which is kind of like our ambitions, our careers, our hobbies, our passions in life, also gonna be changing a lot for us. This is kind of a card on, giving up and letting go. If you say letting go, that could have a positive connotation. If you say giving up, that could have a negative connotation. Either way, this sense of those things having to change. And so it looks like we're going to be redefining what we are thinking and feeling and experiencing in emotional ways and in ways that have to do with, again, our passions, ambitions, hobbies, careers, etc. All those things, we're going to have to reframe that and change that. With this card coming up in here, it seems like the way we're kind of looking at that and defining that now is not going to work for the years that are coming ahead. And so we're going to have to tweak that. Again, our history across this planet has gone through many different cycles of change and transformation where perspectives have had to shift. Ideas of what's most important in life has had to shift. ways people think about livelihoods or how to spend their time in a day or their careers and things like that has shifted. So seeing this again here just means we're entering another one of those times where it's, quite a big difference that's happening here. Quite a big difference. Coming down here with the King of Wands upright, Two of Wands upright, and Seven of Swords in reverse. I will be honest. This is one of those cards and one of these kind of lineups that, again, probably not going to be super surprising to y'all, that we're seeing kind of the people who are doing well. This is a King of Wands card, someone doing well. People doing well are going to be doing even better. And then all the rest of us here that are kind of, in between trying to figure things out, maybe aren't doing so great, then this is this imposter syndrome card of how am I going to do better? How am I going to get ahead? How am I going to, all of that. So unfortunately, it looks like for a time, this whole the rich get rich and the poor get poorer kind of thing, it looks like that is going to continue for some time. It also looks like this sense of, like how they said up here, we're gonna have to change this. It could be that as that gets so polarized where people are either doing really well or really poorly, and let's face it, usually there's fewer people doing really well and a lot more people doing really poorly when that kind of stuff starts to happen. That might be what this is referring to, where it's like, okay, the direction that we're going in, where this is happening, can't be sustained. Something's going to have to change because this isn't going to work. Like, everything is going to kind of break down. If people get too, like, demoralized or feel like they are unable to afford the basics or unable to be able to live a basic, enjoyable life or all that kind of stuff, shit gets ugly and things get really off really fast. And so it looks like that is going to be called into question in some major ways coming up. Some major ways coming up. So just to get a little bit more about what this looks like, this is kind of a good, I guess, 1,000-yard view, just to kind of zoom in a little bit more. Let's get some context up on this and just see if we can kind of slice and dice a little bit more here. So this one, and this one. Okay. So it looks here, Three of Swords in reverse. I'm glad to see it in reverse, though, at least. It's still not a great card to see here, but it could be worse if it was in the upright position. Knight of Swords upright, Nine of Cups in reverse. This is kind of, again, the Nine of Cups in reverse is like the wish card upside down. So, damn it, that's not what I was hoping that would happen. That's not what we wanted. That's not what we were wishing for, hoping for, wanting. And so, again, that summarizes what we've already seen, that this direction is not the direction that we are wishing for and hoping for and wanting. It's like it's just kind of continuing on a path that seems to get worse. And so here, though, with the Three of Swords in reverse, this is kind of talking about, how do I put this? That, this is going to get like really abstract, and I sure hope I'm going to be able to make sense of this. Past wounding, past hurts, things that our populations across the planet have gone through in the past are going to take a part in dictating where we are going. And that is a part of the problem in this case, because all of those ideas start whirling around on the hamster wheel and contribute to the problem. So, and again, I'm not saying that this should be, shouldn't be, is right, wrong, indifferent, whatever. I'm just reading the cards as I see them, as it comes to me, the way that I interpret them to the best of the ability that I can do. So you can agree or not agree, don't shoot the messenger. This feels like things such as, y'all did this to me in the past, therefore now I'm going to do this thing. So, feelings of vengeance. This happened in the past, and so now I hate these people. So, holding on to grudges, and, that means we're starting to self-isolate in our own silos and no longer kind of blend together in a positive way. Or this has happened before to us, so we are gonna preemptively do this instead. And so getting, I guess, like trigger happy, or jumpy on things where you're kind of lashing out or jumping the gun some kind of a way, doing something a little too hurried and impulsive, rather than being able to sit on it, think on it, stuff like that. And so it's like this sense of, as society and as individual people, as communities, as societies, as countries, go think about this in every possible layer you can think about it, down from the individual level all the way up to, countries and huge societies and regions and all that kind of level. That there's this sense of all of these past hurts, people and societies holding on to that, holding on to those wounds, and rather than taking a look at how to heal them, or taking a look at our own accountability in them, our own responsibility in them, what to do about them, there's just these kind of knee-jerk types of reactive things that seems to be like, because this happened, now this is going to happen. So I'm just seeing this uptick in things like, again, vengeance, grudges, isolating from cultures to cultures, not accepting certain people. I guess it's probably gonna increase things like bigotry, increase things like xenophobia, increase all the phobias and isms and stuff like that, because people aren't doing the work, again, as individuals or as collectives, to figure out how to fix this, heal this for themselves, and how to move on in a better way that's not going to muddy the waters and make everything toxic. So I do see in this unfortunate part, a lot of those kind of toxic mindsets festering and breeding more, and that contributes to these issues as well. The more dissatisfied people are in those ways, the more problems that we have coming from that front. So there seems to be an awful lot of problems that they're showing us first over the next 50 years. And again, that seems to be a part of the reason why they have here, something's got to change. We have to do some change and transformation. We can't allow, these things that are starting to build to be the way that it's going to be. There's got to be some sort of shifts and changes, and we're going to have to rework that. So I know that we just talked about a lot of heavy stuff here, but what I think is a good thing to see from that is that the very first thing that came up is there will have to be a lot of change and transformation. This will not be sustainable. So the positive thing is that anybody here that's not realizing that their mindsets are contributing to the toxicity that we're building, people are going to have those should have had a V8 moment. These things are going to start to become so obvious that people are going to start to do something about it. So that is a positive. That is a positive, because the first thing we have to do is notice this stuff, acknowledge this stuff before we can do anything with it. So I see this on a humanity level. I see this kind of, in terms of social stuff, people to people. So in that case, I think I would want to lean into one of these other questions about like what will be kind of defining this next era, like what kinds of things are going to be happening where, let's pretend there were history books that are written 500 years from now or something to say what this period was like or about. What kinds of things are we going to be seeing that comes up? Like now here, us sitting here, we talk about the conflicts that have gone on around the world in our history books. We've talked about the panini with the Rona that's happened. We're going to talk about that in our history books. All that kind of stuff. Are there some kind of big mile markers, shall you say, for the next 50 years that we need to know about, that's going to kind of shape our civilization and what it looks like? So let's pull these up, take a look at that. Okay. So, as I get shuffled up here, let's see, what do we want to mention first? Let's mention the Perk Squad first. So, as always, we have a Perk Squad over there for channel members, for anybody that wants to have extra content, extra posts, have your own emojis, have weekly forecasts, lots of different perks to the Perk Squad over there. You can check it out with the join button or the link in the description box below. And one of the perks of the Perk Squad is that we do video shout outs. So shout out to you, Edwin, and thank you for being a member of the Perk Squad. Happy to have you here. So shout out to you, Edwin, and thank you for being a member. All right, so if y'all are interested in all those extras, you can check them out over there on the Perk Squad. Again, the join button down below or the link in the description box. So all of that can help explain it for you. We got a whole stack here. I'm not going to take all of that because it was a whole stack that dropped. But let's go ahead and see what we can find out, Light Team, about kind of what we're looking at for the things that are going to mark this new era we're entering in over the next 50 years. Kind of the key takeaways that people would write about if we were going to put that in the history books or something like that. Let's see what we got here. Okay. Some big heavy hitter cards. I'm going to take a sip of water. Y'all hydrate. Alrighty. So, we've got up top, 9 of Pentacles in reverse, Chariot card upright, next to the Judgment card, which is also upright. So these are already pretty big, but then let's add these to the mix. We've got the Star card in reverse, the 8 of Wands in reverse, and the Page of Cups has come up again in reverse again. So, gotta say, it does look like a bit of a wild time over the next 50 years. So, first of all, with the Chariot card, one of the things that seems to be a noteworthy aspect, takeaway, snapshot of the next 50-year era is how fast it develops and goes. This Chariot card is just zoom forward. So again, if we're thinking 50 years ago being, is it 75? Let me do the math before I, on the calculator. Like I did it in my head, but I could be wrong. And I just want to double check myself before I just say the wrong thing the entire damn video. Yes, 1975. All right. So just double checking my math before, I'm a pervasive idiot for the entire duration of this reading. So just like there was a lot that's happened between 1975 and now, that's going to be nothing compared to 2025 to 20, let's see, I said 50 years from now. So 2075. So it's going to be nothing compared to that. That is a whole different ball game of advancements moving forward, fast, going, all of this stuff happening. And in some ways, that can be a very good thing. In some ways, that could be a very rough thing. With the Chariot card, this guy controls these two sphinxes with no reins because he controls them with his mind. He's able to put his mind, intentions, and focus and basically signal to them as one kind of symbiotic unit if we need to move left or right, stop or go, or however that looks. He's able to have that kind of control because of all of the practice and honing in that he's had over his faculties. If somebody hasn't gone through all of that practice, all of that discipline, all of that mind work, all of that, cleansing and clearing and healing and focusing and, all that work, then you're going to be scattered. You're going to be ineffective. You're not going to be able to control the reins. And so whether or not we're going to be able to control the reins is kind of up for grabs here, okay? The good news is this card is coming upright. And so it looks like we're going to try to make this work, okay? It looks like over the next 50 years, there will be enough attempts and types of attempts that are effective at, keeping some semblance of control and some semblance of discipline and focus and mastery over this. But just saying, at any given time, if you lose that discipline, you lose that focus, you lose control of the reins, and the sphinxes go wherever the fuck. So just saying, that is a little bit of a risky territory when you move so fast that you have a hard time controlling it. It's just like anything else. If you're riding a horse and you ride real fast, you have to be able to control the horse. If you're, let's say you're, I don't know if this is even possible because I'm not a gamer, but here, let's pretend. Let's say you're playing some kind of a video game and there's something that happens where you can play the video game at double speed. And now you're like, and you're trying to gain control over it. Or somebody's juggling and suddenly somebody says, now juggle twice the speed. Now juggle 3 times the speed, and you're trying to keep control over it. It's hard to maintain control over things that are jet setting. It's hard to. And so if we're going to be jet setting over the next 50 years, then our big issue is going to be whether or not we can keep control over that speed of progress, that speed of development. And that looks like there's going to be a big question mark in the air. It's a good sign that the Chariot's coming out upright, like I said, but still, that's a little risky because one wrong move and you can lose control and have a bit of a scattered moment of trying to regain control or do damage control to try to get shit back on track. So just putting that out there. That's going to be kind of a big one for this era. So as we're looking at some of these other things that come up with the 9 of Pentacles in reverse, I hate to say that, but our 9 of Pentacles upright is a card about success and abundance, and we've got it going on. We've got it going together. If it comes up in reverse, then it does feel like the next 50 years are, in a physical, tangible sense, a lot of struggle going on. That doesn't mean that every day has to be bad and everything is a struggle and everything is wrong and negative and blah, 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 blah. It just means it's a period of struggle. We've gone through this many, many times on this planet. We've heard of times recently like the Great Depression where people had a period of time of struggle. There were times before that that things have happened. There's been times all across the world, even currently plenty of places across the world are in periods of struggle. In tangible physical ways, financially, with resources, things like that. But they are kind of showing here that another thing that would go down in the history books about that 50-year period is how, in a physical way, financially, and in terms of like resources and things like that, there will be a marked period of struggle. So just throwing that out there, that we're kind of already in that to some degree. Things got kind of rough pretty fast at a certain point in the last handful of years, and it just hasn't really gotten better since. And so it's not that we are any strangers to what this looks like, again, from what we can be experiencing now and what we've seen on the planet for hundreds or thousands of years before. But we're just seeing that we're coming into a period of time like that again. Things were booming in the United States, from like the 50s to the early 2000s or whatever. Things were just booming and everybody was being able to kind of, keep up with the Joneses and all this stuff. That period of time does appear to be over for quite a while. So, and again, I'm not trying to say you in particular can't make it, or you in particular will never have, financial freedom or, abundance or success or whatever. I'm talking as a general kind of global period and era that we're going through. That would be one of the markers that would define, okay, that would define this period of time. So throwing that out there as well. The Judgment card upright is also very interesting. This card, there's a little bit of twofer energy here. Let me just see which way they want to go, or if they're swinging both. Okay, we're swinging both because we've got two angels back to back. We've got two angels back to back here. All right, we're going to go both ways then. This is a twofer for both ways. Let me go ahead and take my sip of water before I get on this. All right, hang with me, y'all. Hang with me. This is a reading that people wanted. I'm trying to give it to you, and I'm trying to do it in a way that strikes a balance to give us some realistic things that we can hold on to without making people feel freaked the fuck out. Because I know this kind of stuff spikes people's anxiety, and I'm not trying to do that, okay? However, when we get these two angel cards coming up side by side, Judgment card about being called home, Temperance card about passion, purpose, balance, timing, all of that kind of stuff, this strikes me as two main things that are big markers for this 50-year era. And I don't know that they would quote unquote write this in the history books, but we can know this. Not everything that's big that happens ends up in a history book, as we've learned in society. It depends on who the fuck is writing it, right? But anyway, there's going to be a huge uptick in spirituality, which is the positive side around this, a huge uptick in spirituality. People are going to have more spiritual focus. People are going to have more interest in spiritual things. There's going to be more people who were originally, let's say, atheist or agnostic, didn't really kind of care. It wasn't really on their radar. They're kind of doing other things in their life, whatever. That there's going to be more of those people that start to be interested in things beyond, whether they start with something simple like paranormal stuff, or whether they end up having some kind of personal experiences that make them feel spiritual, or whether it is that they go through some difficult times and they're like, you know what, screw it. I don't usually believe in anything spiritual, but let me start praying right now to see if it helps, because I want anything that could, potentially help or something like that, and become spiritual that way. I don't know. But I just see an increase, an uptick in a lot of spirituality around. This may or may not correlate with an increase in religiosity. It might be separate. There might be people who were primarily religious that become really, really spiritual, but no longer religious over the next 50-year period. So I don't know if those two things are going to go together, but an uptick in spirituality, whatever that might mean to people in their own personal way of experiencing spirituality, or in their culture's particular way of, defining and experiencing spirituality. I'm seeing a huge uptick in that over the next 50 years, which is a good thing. The challenging part about that, and again, I don't want us to take this information and put meaning on it that I'm not saying, or to act like this information is singling you out in particular or anything like that to create fear. I am doing this kind of stuff because people feel like they want this heads up. And so I'm giving it, but that means that y'all have to be responsible receivers of the information too. And try to receive it responsibly and handle it responsibly. It's kind of a lot for us to manage. The Judgment card upright is kind of a calling you home type of card. So when we saw at the beginning how there was a bit of a twofer on the DEATH card, here we're picking that up again. It looks like we probably will experience quite a bit of loss of human life over the next 50 years. Again, a lot of that could be natural, because in 50 years, a lot of people, just naturally it would be their time to cross over in 50 years. And then there can also be reasons that expedite that, for certain people or certain populations or certain places or things like that. And that seems to be a part of why people who remain end up being very spiritual, whether that means they lose loved ones, and so now that makes them think more about spirituality and their own mortality and things like that, and so they get more into it because of that, or whether there are things that happen and that creates people to become a bit more sensitive and have more experiences. Maybe we're having experiences of loved ones who have crossed over, or maybe we're having more what people would consider paranormal or supernatural experiences because of these kinds of things. It could be any number of reasons of why those things could kind of go together, influence each other, impact each other, and we could pick up on it. But I'm just saying that I do see that here. I know people in the comments are going to be screaming for me to pull some context cards on that to see if there's anything else we can know about it. So I will do a little bit. But again, I'm only going to do for as much as it seems like it's helpful. If it gets to a point where it seems like it's not helpful, then there's no reason to go beyond that. We're wanting to keep this, a reading for the highest good of all. And only the guides and the light team can know what amount of information is to give us is of the highest good versus is, exceeding what is actually useful for us. So let's see here. Okay, so Four of Swords in reverse, that's an active energy. Two of Wands upright, this is kind of holding the world. It's like we've got the world in our hands. We're really trying to kind of see where that's going to go. This is Knight of Swords, all mental kind of stuff. Mental kind of stuff can also mean AI and advancements in all of that kind of, I don't know what they call it. I mean, artificial intelligence, general intelligence, super intelligence, whatever these intelligences are, all of that kind of stuff can come up with swords energies. So it seems like that energy bustling here, and then a Tower moment about it. So it seems here that ironically, this is what's putting this in my head, is how people talk about, like, oh, remember Atlantis and Lemuria getting so technologically advanced that they screw themselves over. There is a little flavor of that coming in here. And again, this doesn't mean like, mass extinction. I'm not saying that, okay? So again, do not take what I'm saying and put extra meaning onto it. I'm not saying mass extinction, but I am saying big tower moments that look like they are related to matters of AI. Now, whether if that is, okay, let me just pull and see what kinds of matters on AI before I start going. Okay, so the dark coming to light, things about control, things about this also can be about kind of control. This can also be about supplies, supply chain stuff. It can be about what do you call it, like our relationships between all of us as countries and nations with all the other ones that supply each other with things. Dropping the ball on stuff, getting confused, and our wires twisted about stuff, and just essentially ego things as well. So it feels like misuse of AI, also use of AI that, again, people lose some control over, because we talked about that here, that people lose some control over, this sense of AI and all of that. And like when it comes to the whole countries thing, there could be something around AI that seems like it gets in the way of countries kind of working with each other to continue their relationships and their global economies and this and that and the other. So I don't know if this, again, if it can feel like something that happens wrong with AI, like it starts to have some developments that screw us up in some kind of a way, or if it starts to have some developments that we lose control over or lose track of some sort of a way, or that it starts to develop in a way where it's like countries are kind of going at each other, like as if they're kind of shutting each other out because they're being overly competitive or something around AI. That either way, these kind of breakdowns that have to do with AI could even be the whole, people saying stuff like, oh, is AI going to take people's jobs and lead to, some unemployment issues? And that creates a whirlwind of stuff. It really feels like this is too complex to name just one reason that pertains to AI. It feels like this is covering several different types of things, but the overall umbrella, for it is that it's related to AI, and that it brings about some tower moments for us, and that those tower moments catalyze a time where there are, losses of life in humanity for that. Again, as we're talking about this and that raises people's concerns, I understand that. And I'm not saying that it's not valid to be concerned. I'm just saying that, again, if we're looking throughout history, have there been times where things mess stuff up and we've had, gouging loss of life? We had that during the Rona. We have that going on right now in Ukraine, Russia, in Gaza, Israel, Iran even. Like, these things have happened before, and they're already happening now. This is just a different way than another thing will be coming to pass and happening. It's almost unavoidable to be alive on this planet in this kind of day and age and not have something be going on in a conflict type way somewhere across the globe. So I'm not trying to, again, get all like mass extinction-y about this. I'm just raising what I'm seeing, and this is what they're giving me. That complexities associated with AI that seem like they range a lot of different things, misuse of it, things of not being able to keep up with it, and things about AI competitive issues between countries, that those kinds of things start to spawn a lot of issues that bring us around some tower moments, and that those catalyze some actual, existential issues for a lot of people around the planet. So, just saying that is one of the big mile markers, so to speak, that would be coming up. And again, trying to throw out a silver lining in that. I'm not saying we're trying to erase this negative and only look at the positive. I'm saying that we're trying to take this negative and look at the positive with it. And the positive with it is that this will spark an increase in spirituality all across the globe. That people will start to become more spiritual and more interested in spirituality all around the planet, and that is a positive silver lining that we need to not forget as we are also taking in this heads up type of information. We can take in both, and we can give both of them equal level of importance here. So let's not forget the silver lining part, that this means an explosion of spiritual energy and spiritual development and spiritual advancement, which is certainly something that is needed and positive for us to kind of be ushering in. So I hate that, again, the whole, it's always darkest before the dawn, and, you got to have negative things to appreciate the good things. And, sometimes terrible adversity brings about great growth and power and strength and enlightenment. I hate that that's how it goes a lot of the time, but I am seeing that kind of thing again here. And I'm at least glad to see the silver lining part as well. I'm glad we're seeing that too. Okay, we've been talking for a very long time here, so let's see if we can get through this last little bit here, and then find a way to kind of tie a bow around things so that I won't be going on for over an hour, because I don't want a video to be that long. So, bottom row here, to add to what they've already set up here, there will be a lot of kind of miscommunications and weird communication issues, which was already kind of alluded to up here surrounding AI. This could be something that's also separate from AI that has to do with communication issues, miscommunication, misinformation, disinformation, all of that kind of stuff, where people start to get really savvy about how they get information from there on, which can be a good thing if people start realizing, you can't believe any of this shit, I'm going to find my own way. That's not necessarily a bad thing, that we start tapping into some inner discernment big time. That can actually be another potential silver lining here. And the Star card in reverse. Just going to put it out there. Okay, Star card out in the stars. We talk about this card coming up for ETs and stuff like that, interdimensional beings, things like that all the time. With it coming up in reverse, there's some kind of a covert, semi-low-key-ish type of a way that there might be some knowledge, understanding, or presence, or things going on around ETs or interdimensionality or things like that. So again, that might have something to do with this spike in spirituality that comes up. You never know. Let's get just a few cards on that, since I know people are gonna ask. Yep, this is a card about that there will be some things with this that are disappointing to some people. So maybe for the people out there that are like, ETs are going to come and save us all, those kinds of things might, people might be disappointed if that doesn't exactly happen in the next 50 years. But outside of that, this whole like, oh, not people aren't working together well and playing well in the sandbox, but we've got to find a way to be resilient and bounce back so that we're not like letting this planet go to hell in a handbasket, And so it's like, here we are continuing to not work well together. All of this just keeps coming up like we're not working well together. And so in some kind of a way, it's like, all right, well then in that case, there's this energy that seems like it kind of, I don't know if it gets sent in to help, or it feels like some kind of a low-key assistance, again, from some sort of ETs or interdimensional beings, because of this being the nature of our world and societies. See? Ten of Swords, we're stabbing people in the back, we're betraying people, we can't seem to get along without causing suffering, hurting more people, so whatever it is that they're coming in to help with, low key, it's going to be about all this. It's going to be, it's not going to be a huge rescue mission. So, if people have to feel disappointed about that, then I guess I got to feel disappointed about that. But it is going to be about all this horrible stuff that we're doing to each other, interpersonally. It's going to be some kind of a way of tapping in and trying to help people see that we've got to do better and do differently interpersonally. And so some sort of, again, covert interjection of ET or interdimensional beings, energy, insights, advice, help, any kind of way, there's something that's going to be coming through in the next 50 years to try to help us with this issue. Again, not savior card, which means we can get the insights, but we have to do the work. Just like when we do these things here, when we're talking to our spirit guides and our light teams and stuff, they can give us heads up, they can give us guidance and advice, but then we have to take that and we have to do the work with it. They can't take over our free will and then rescue us out of it. They can give us all of these tools to put in our toolkit, and then we've got to use the tools. And that seems like what this is too. So we're going to be given some tools in some weird covert ways that I don't know how to explain, and they're not really listing it out here, that helps us have the tools we need to work on this relational issue that we have, this, interpersonal, like, ineptitude that we have. They're going to help us work on this. We just have to take the tools and actually apply them, do something with them. We've gotta. So as I'm shuffling up one last time, if you'd like to book a private reading, BeasTalksAndTarot.com. I keep almost saying my email. BeasTalksAndTarot.com. The gmail.com is the email. BeasTalksAndTarot.com if you want to book a private reading. There's lots of different options for private readings. There's Reiki Energy healing for cleansing, clearing, tune-up. There's intuitive healing sessions for letting go of things that are kind of hanging over us and helping to kind of move forward, similar to life coaching. You can read about it on my website if you're curious. And also tarot tutoring for anybody that would like to read the cards the way I read the cards. So all of that stuff on my website, BeasTalksAndTarot.com. You can book it there. You can learn about all of the stuff there. Got descriptions. So if you're curious, that'll tell you about it. But let's see. To tie a bow around this, the last question was actually about the kinds of lessons that humanity will learn. And it looks like they've showed us all different opportunities for types of lessons we need to be learning. Opportunities for lessons to learn around, AI safety. That was coming up. Around interpersonal skills and development and being better with each other. The golden rule, treating others how you would want to be treated, working together, learning how to play well in the sandbox. All of that came up over here as being a major lesson learned. A lesson learned about slowing down and to the point that you can maintain control, because you don't want to get that horse out of the stable and not be able to control it. That came up as a big lesson learned. Learning that it's very important for us to tap into the spiritual and advance that spiritual journey, because of some things that are going to be coming down the pipeline that it seems a lot of people are going to end up there. We may as well begin there. Kind of get a leg up in that. There's lots of different lessons that they seem to have been sprinkling in this throughout this entire thing. So I'm going to pull just like, what are the last little things that you want us to know to tie a bow around all of this for the next 50 years. The last little things you want us to know before we close. Okay. So, what they're showing here. As we know, with both of these cards that have kind of come up before, we're not going to get rescued by something. We have to do that for ourselves. We have to do the work. But if we're doing the work, things can come full circle. The world can come full circle. The world can unite. The world can figure out a way to just tie all of this together and be like, finally, this is how we work together. This is how it should look. This is how it should be. This option is still on the table. But we have to get out of our own ways enough to know nobody's coming in and doing the work for us. And we can't even just say, well, the politicians need to do the work. Well, the teachers need to do the work. Well, this thing, where we can point fingers all day on who's responsible for doing the work. We're all responsible. We all have something to do to contribute to this. And there's something we could be doing more to contribute to this. Let's wake up and find out how we can contribute so we can make sure that we go the route of this. We've already seen several different times through this reading how there are tower moments coming up and how there are times where things can go off the rails. We can lose track of those chariot reins real easy and shit can get real bad real fast. So this offer is still on the table. This outcome is still on the table. Let's make sure we're doing all of our parts individually, collectively, so that we can continue to secure this type of a future for ourselves. We're responsible for that. Let's take accountability. Let's strap up our bootstraps and get on it. All right, y'all. Let's do a quick B-roll here at the end for some more lightness and levity. And I will again show little Squee, little Izzy over there sleeping on the couch. She napped the entire time. She held a little light space for us the entire time. She was stable and calm and relaxed the entire time, which shows no matter what's going on our computers, on our phone screens, on our tablets, on our devices, there's a way where if we just need for an hour-long video to do like Izzy and just unplug, lay on the couch, take a nap, and just take a moment to reset and not be so inundated with all the things all the time, we can do that. So I'm going to do a B-roll here to help lift us up, and then I encourage all of us to unplug to the extent that we're able to, just so the information can soak in. Pray to your guides, your light team, your spirit guides, whoever, pray and to the light beings, to the higher powers, to the God of your understanding, to help you integrate what you've heard today and to help you know what your part to play is on your responsibility piece to help us come to that full circle part there, and just wait for guidance and take the guidance as it comes. So, anyway, don't be a stranger. Come back and see me, and I will talk at you later. Believe me. Believe me. Bye, y'all.
We got wild times. There's a blizzard. What do? We better get it. We better get it.